Welcome everybody. I am Loreto di Rienzo, Technology Ambassador of the house. The house is one project by Dyloan. Dyloan is manufacturing in the fashion. The house is one spin-off from Dyloan and one natural evolution of the experience gained in 35 years of the activity and expertise. Our cutting-edge ecosystem is based on three main assets: R&D, technology, and sustainability. And getting both technology, producers such as Stratasys, Universal Robot, Framis, and more like laser, knitting, embroidery. In reality, that represent the different world of material. For example, Linea Pelle, the Woolmark company, and the specific material, for example, Dinamica by Miko too. On the occasion of Milan Design Week 2021, Coloreel and the house have entered into an exciting partnership, demonstrating and offering the Coloreel groundbreaking instant 3D coloring technology for creative and responsible embroidery. The house is one reference for the designer, for the brand, for the student, and the customer too, and is one point when the technology meet the creativity. From the month of October, we have organized with our partner one series of the workshop for introduce the responsible technology to the world of the fashion and the design too. Fashion, interior design, automotive. We have a project in different way. The workshop Responsible Technology Digital Embroidery 4.0 will have to goal to demonstrate at the commitment the sustainable, creative and innovative technology and responsible, because we don't speak much about sustainable, but for us is important the responsible, where is the point of the art about the technology. And in this case, embroidery is one demonstration how is possible evolve the technology and the application. I speak thank you to all people present, all guests is present, is connected online, and I wish this is one important and useful approach to the technology for all. I pass the word to Vittoria Hennessy. She is business development fashion of Coloreel, and she introduced the Coloreel technology. Thank you, Vittoria.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Victoria Hennessy. I'm responsible for business development for the fashion sector for Coloreel. We are a Swedish technology company that's been going for about 10 years, and I have to say that we're really, really excited and thrilled to partner with Loreto and his excellent team at D House. We've decided that Italy is a very, very key market for us, and we're really, really happy to partner here with the D House and the team to develop the visibility and the reputation of our technology. Coloreel is a technology, an innovative technology. We have invented a system of, effectively, I don't want to spoil the surprise, but using one white thread, recycled polyester, we can create any color that you want for embroideries. So it's completely innovative, and it will really revolutionize the world of the embroidery industry, which obviously is a very important part of manufacturing in Italy. We are very, very keen and focused on sustainability, and we really hope you'll see when my colleague here, Henrik, explains more about the technology in detail, that we really want to be part of the journey to help brands manufacture in a more sustainable and responsible way. Our machine will allow manufacturers to really look at sustainable ways of working, and we really hope that we can help brands look at a future where we generate less waste and we're much more aware of the damage that manufacturing is currently doing to the planet. So with the fantastic, capable team of D House, I think that we're really going to build this journey together, and we're very, very excited to be here today. So what we will do is we will have two presentations. This is my colleague Henrik, who is the global CMO of Coloreel, and he will talk in detail about what the technology, how it works, what it looks like, how it functions. After that, we will pass to my colleague Mats, who is our Global Director of Sales, who will explain a bit about how the COLOREEL Studio software works, because it's part of the package, and we will explain for people, because perhaps some of you are actually technical designers, how it actually physically works. After that, we would like to have a Q&A, because I'm sure people will have a lot of questions about the technology, about our vision, what we're doing. We're very happy to answer any questions. And then for all of you who are actually here in real life, which is really exciting to see you all, we would like to show you the technology in action. So we have the unit installed downstairs with the team, and they're ready to show you actually how the whole Coloreel embroidery system works. So we're super excited to be here. Thank you very much for all coming, because I appreciate, it's Friday. So thanks for your presence, and I will, without further ado, hand over to my colleague Henrik, who is going to talk you through the Coloreel technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Let's see if technology works. It does, actually. That's magic. And it's always fun to see also that we have the most eager students on the front row here. So as Victoria said, Henrik Linder is my name, and I'm CMO, so responsible for marketing and communication with Coloreel. And I'm very pleased to be here. It really feels like a privilege to talk both in front of you and the large audience we have online as well. So, especially when the topic is also responsible manufacturing, or more specifically, responsible decoration and responsible embroidery, which is really what you can achieve with our technology. So, Mats and myself here, we're going to walk you through how our technology works, but before doing that, I'm going to frame the discussion a little bit, because otherwise it's difficult to understand exactly where we're at. So I'm going to frame the importance of the discussion and give you a little bit of a background and insight to how our journey started more than 10 years ago, and basically how the quest for a more sustainable decoration technology started. Okay, so bear with me a little bit before we get down to the really nitty-gritty details of how the technology works. Okay? And I know I might be knocking on some open doors for many of you working in the textile industry, but I think it's important that we frame the discussion in terms of what are the and why are these topics of sustainable and more responsible manufacturing and decoration important today. I mean, these are just examples of some of the topics that are on the agenda of every responsible and serious brand, producer, manufacturer, OEM, and designer in the textile industry today. Ranging from left to right is, of course, to take into account a more responsible water consumption, the reduction of waste creation, the focus on increased recycling, and of course, to try to reduce the use of greenhouse gases as well. I mean, the driver of that is, of course, among others, increased consumer awareness. And that's one of the main drivers. And driving that is, of course, these numerous examples of studies that have been done focusing on the impact the textile industry actually have on our environment. And these infographics are from a couple of UN studies and European Union studies as well, ranging from left to right. It just showcases the massive impact our industry have on the water consumption, on the production of microfibers that are released into the ocean every year, And to the right-hand side, the fact that more or less 10% of the greenhouse gases that are emitted are basically from textile manufacturing. And I mean, following that, there's of course a bunch, as you know, a bunch of regulatory measures that are put in place and have been put in place. There are free alliances like the Resintex focus on recyclability and so forth. I mean, in Europe we have the waste framework ranging back from 2018, and we try to inform consumers about and create awareness through the eco label. We have from actually February this year the new circular economy action plan that's being put in place that focuses on material usage and material consumption, and with really binding targets. And then of course on the right hand side we have UN Nations 17 Sustainability Development Goals and the fashion industry's response to that. But that said, all of these regulations, they target 2015 or 2025, sorry, 2030 or 2050. But luckily, if we look from a value chain point of view, there's numerous examples and solutions that you can adopt today to act now and become more sustainable, more responsible in the way you manufacture. I mean, if we go left to right, there's on the non-natural fibers, there's a lot of research and companies focusing on new raw materials. On the processing side, you have a lot of companies, I'm just listing some, focusing on more responsible processing with less depletion on water consumption and chemicals used. There's of course a lot of focus on the manufacturing side, I'll come back to that. You have brands that really take this into their DNA, like Pangaia, whose most cases in Europe is a good reference, but you also have retail chains like REI in US that puts a lot of focus on their suppliers and the brands that are represented in their stores to really work through everything from raw materials, processing, manufacturing. And of course, then you have companies like Spinnova or Renewsol that focus on the creation of or usage of textile waste to create new raw materials, so the circularity of the business. Interesting enough, if we look specifically at more responsible decoration, the landscape is not that big. There's not that many companies that focus specifically on the decoration side of the responsibility and the more responsibleness. And this was really the starting point for our founder, Joachim Staberg, when he, 10 years ago, more of a coincidence because he had no background in the textile industry or in the embroidery industry. When he came across a project and he started to visit a bunch of different embroidery producers and realized that, sorry for my bad language, but shit, they are stocking hundreds or thousands of batched colored thread reels that in many cases are just sitting there, becoming obsolete, becoming dead stock, and are being thrown away. And as a second coincidence, at the same time, he was involved and traveled extensively in Asia and came across and saw the effects. This is, you might have read this, all of you, but this is from a CNN feature on the fashion industry focusing on the consequences of batch dyeing of textile and threads. And it's, if you haven't read it, I really strongly recommend you to read it. It's available online. It focuses on how our colorful closets basically depletes our resources, but also actually leaves traces in terms of black rivers. And some of the slides here are from that. And it's extremely striking, I think, in terms of how the dyeing process today depletes our resources. And Joachim, he traveled extensively in Asia and saw this at the same time as he got the insight from the embroidery studios and industry. And these two insights So basically the dead stock and the fact that we're batch coloring threads, and the effects of the dyeing process made him want to try to find a more sustainable embroidery and decoration method. And I'm going to show you a video here which shows that original journey from when he started actually testing. How could he combine his technical knowledge into a technology that do not leave any water waste from the dyeing process, and that would enable coloring on a thread on demand. So bear with me with the video here. No.
Next.
Once again.
Yeah,
Oh, there we go. Sound. Technology is great, not always smooth. Our technology is more stable than this. It works every time. Showcasing some of the really early trials and errors that he did with the different stages of our technology, and I'll walk you through that in a couple of seconds. It's really fun to see how through the years you go from idea to actually true innovation. With that background, picturing the need for more sustainable decoration and embroidery technologies and the background and insights that we are built upon, Mats and I are going to describe our technology a little bit more and how our customers around the world are using our technology and what the benefits they have. A way that I sometimes describe our technology, because it's truly innovative, is that it combines the benefits from digital print in a very smart way. I'll come back to that. So you gain the design freedom from digital print. It combines that with the premium quality, the authenticity, and the look and feel of traditional embroidery. And through how we have developed the technology and the process in our technology, we basically don't create any wastewater. And with the fact that you color the thread on demand, you don't have to have any dead stock in terms of thread reels or colored threads. So it really enables and offers both a more creative and a more sustainable and more responsible decoration method. So 10 years later, I'm going to show you another video in terms of where we're at today. Let's see if it works perfect with audio this time. Yes, it did. So Mats and I are going to walk you through a couple of the steps you just saw here. And basically you could say that in a nutshell our technology uses two cornerstones. One is to the right here, what we call the instant thread coloring unit. And I'll walk you through the steps and the process inside that, because that's where the genius lies, basically. And then to the left-hand side, you have our free software, which is called COLOREEL Studio, which Mats will guide you through and see how you can add texture, effects, gradients, and so forth to otherwise dull and gray design. Okay? In a couple of minutes, he'll walk you through that. So the process you saw on the video, just for those of you not familiar with embroidery, traditionally from an idea you need to create a stitch file, which you load into the embroidery machine in order to create your embroidery. In our process, you add one step. So you basically take your gray stitch file, import it from any available stitch design tool, import it into our freeware, the COLOREEL Studio, the Mats will demonstrate, and you add these colors and effects, and then you load the two files. The color file to our unit that is mounted on any modern embroidery machine or on top of, and you load the stitch file to the embroidery machine, and you produce your colorful and more responsible embroideries. If we look inside the instant thread coloring technology, and this is really where the innovation lies. It's like a 5-step process, more or less. And I sometimes describe it as a good combination in between a very smart sublimation technology and a smart dyeing process, because that's more or less what actually happens inside this unit. The fascinating aspect is that it happens at the same speed as the thread is running through the embroidery machine, so 200 millimeters per second. That's quite genius in terms of coloring the thread in that speed, starting with the recycled polyester thread, a smart sublimation approach where we can really minimize the ink that is jetted in nanoparticles on the thread while it's moving. We have this dyeing process that doesn't leave any wastewater, that goes from air dyeing to contact fixation and smart bath of ultrasonic washing, and then we add a little bit of lubrication before this colorful thread exits and enters into the embroidery machine to create your embroideries. For those of you present here, if you haven't seen it, we do have it downstairs, so I think there will be room and possibility to see it in real life afterwards. When we talk with our customers, they normally categorize the benefits into, Mats will talk about the maximum creativity and how to create that, and the fact that you have any colored thread actually available on demand at any time. And how you can add your creative effects and colors, Mats will guide you through clearly in COLOREEL Studio. And the other aspect that you have had me talk about is, of course, the minimal impact. With the fact that we don't, with our dyeing process, don't create any wastewater, and the overarching minimizing of thread waste, as you always have the proper color available through the dyeing process. And also the fact that you only produce what you use. I hear many of our clients around the world, sometimes when they pitch for projects, they need to buy small quantities of specific colors of thread and so forth. Here you can do that quite easily. You can produce like segments that Mats will show you around a specific color to, together with the client, select what color is proper for that specific fabric, textile, and project. And then finally, with a lot of this, with a lot of the trends ongoing in terms of personalization and so forth, it's also important to understand that this brings the production closer to that step. So you can really, in small volumes with our technology, you can personalize and build on that trend. Of course, like any standard embroidery, our embroidery technology is used in different applications areas, ranging from sports to fashion, workwear, and even more artistically, as Mats will show you a little bit. And this is a typical customer of ours. This is Sweden's largest embroidery manufacturer, Tryckhuset, on the west coast of Sweden. It has an 8-header installation. We work very close with them because they're conveniently locally or close by where we have our head office as well. This is actually one of our pioneering customers. I'm going to show a final video before I hand over to Mats on how he sees the benefits with our technology and how they apply that in his daily life. And Martin is the founder of a company called Profilkompaniet in Stockholm, in Sweden, who was our first customer many years ago with a single head machine. Now he has both a single head and a 4-head installation. And he does a lot of like personalized workwear and gifts and so forth. So he's more like a profile maker.
My name is Martin. I'm the founder and CEO of Profilkompaniet. We are a profile specialist, market leader in our business area. We have a single-head Coloreel unit and a multi-head Coloreel unit with 4 heads installed. We can produce logotypes and designs in a way that's never been possible before. We can make gradients, we can add effects like glow to a simple, otherwise quite boring or dull logotype design. We start with a normal stitch file, like any other normal embroidery. And then we use the COLOREEL Studio program to color the stitches, and then the COLOREEL units color the thread as we go, as we make the stitches in the designs in the embroidery machine. It saves us a lot of still time or transition time between motifs and in motifs that have lots of color changes and lots of different colors. So it's a big technical advantage. It also gives a big quality improvement because we can avoid stop stitches and parts in the embroidery where the machines won't operate perfectly. The best thing with COLOREEL is that it gives us the competitive edge. It gives us a possibility to give our clients the very best way of standing out and being unique. It's a world-leading technique. It's a world revolution in the embroidery industry, and it's easy to operate.
With that, I'm going to hand over to Mats, who's going to live demonstrate a little bit COLOREEL Studio.
Yes.
Mats?
Firstly, I will.
Thank you all.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to talk a little bit. I have a few slides to show you, and I'm going to talk a little bit how we go from COLOREEL design to manufacturing. And I will show our software, COLOREEL Studio, how it actually works in live. Yeah. So I will pick up the thread and go back a little bit where Henrik left over.
You are funny. Pick up the thread.
Yes.
Did you notice that?
Yeah, I didn't notice that. I actually did. So somewhere we have a design idea. And today, with the COLOREEL technique, we can actually embroider things that was before only able to be printed. So we can do a lot more stuff today than we were able to before. Somewhere we have a design idea, then we make a stitch design. The stitch design or the digitizing is a little bit different than when you do it in a traditional way, because when we talk about COLOREEL, we try to talk about the timeline. We try to talk about having the design done in one go. So it's a little bit like painting a picture without lifting the pencil from the picture. We try to use as few cuts and trims as possible. You can actually use any punching software that you have today. So it's no different than before. You just have to think a little bit different when you do this design. You save that design in as a DST format, so It's quite a dead file that you then import to COLOREEL Studio. And in COLOREEL Studio, where it's all the magic is happening, there is the program where we do the coloring of the design. And like Henrik mentioned before, we can add effects that create lives in the embroidery in a actually totally different way than we were able to do before. And I think COLOREEL is mostly talked about gradients effect. And I would say that's actually one of the things that really stands out, because with traditional embroidery, you haven't been able to do gradients before. You put the COLOREEL file, the color file inside the COLOREEL unit, and the DST file inside the embroidery machine. So it's just one extra file, and you can put it in different ways. You can use a USB stick, or you can upload it directly to the COLOREEL unit. The thing that connects the two units is actually just the thread, and then it's a stitch sensor, because we need to keep track of which stitch we are on the embroidery machine. But then it goes out as a final product, so then we go to production. In COLOREEL Studio, we use, or actually in the COLOREEL unit, we use CMYK. So that gives us a really, really large color space. I would say we can probably do around 85% of all Pantone colors. And in the COLOREEL software, we have today 4 ways to choose which color we want to have. We can use the CMYK values, or we can use the RGB values. We can use hex code, and we can use LAB. So if you have any other color number from Pantone, for example, it's really easy to translate that. There is a lot of programs that can translate that from Pantone number to, for example, RGB or LAB value. Inside the COLOREEL Studio then, we can create our own color libraries. So all the colors you're using for a specific customer, you can create a library that customer is always going back to. So you don't have to invent the wheel after another. Just create a color library. We will have a short look at the little movie before I start actually showing you COLOREEL Studio live. They thought it was a good idea to put the salesman to do that. Let's see if that works later.
Imagine being able to offer your customers something that your competitors can't. Now imagine that you are able to start instantly with new clients, regardless of their design requirements, while also offering faster delivery of complex designs. COLOREEL technology means any color and any design at any time, with perfect color matching. It also means that you can offer more authentic and unique embroideries with increased environmental care. Our technology enables you to enhance the efficiency and quality of your embroidery process, taking your business to the next level.
I also would like to mention the fact that when it comes to the COLOREEL technique, we have the possibility to be really close to the customer, because the customer doesn't have to wait to get the right color match. You always have the right color on stock at home. So it's really easy to create a quick example for the customer, or to create actually a quick embroidery for the customer, so we can work a lot faster than you maybe do in traditional way. So we are keeping a close distance to the customer. We will also somehow share a link. So the software that I will show you, COLOREEL Studio, is free on our website. So we put up that link somewhere where you can download it and play around and see for yourself how it works. You can use any DST file, so any embroidery that you have, won't be able to embroider it, because then the stitch design needs to have some modification, but you can always play around in COLOREEL Studio. Okay, then I have to sit down. Perfect. Now we're at COLOREEL Studio. So this is the beginning. I will open a file, and it's really simple. So for this thing, I will do, I will take this one. This file I will show you now, it's already colored. We start there. Then I will show you an empty file and how to build up the coloring in the design. But this is just a quick way of showing you the possibilities that we have. Because in our software now, we can do all the gradients or all the effects that we want to do. So for example, in this design, we have a lot of shadings and gradients done to make the design stand out. This is actually a Swedish graffiti painter that did this painting on a wall that we took a picture of and created a stitch design in color file, a COLOREEL embroidery. I will do a quick showing of, I won't show the whole design because this takes some time, but this is how the embroidery is built up. So we can follow the path. And we actually use the underlayers in the COLOREEL design to make the color changes. We need to do a sharp shift of colors from one color to another color that is really sharp, we need about 25 centimeters of thread to hide somewhere in the design. And normally we always use the underlayers. But it's also possible to actually do like going from one color to another color visible without seeing the color change. We stop that. So if we go down here, we have the timeline. And this is what actually is the difference between traditional embroidery and COLOREEL embroidery. So we always think of this in a timeline. And down here, we create the different segments. So, for example, this was a bit hard to steer. If I would like to change any coloring, it's a little bit hard to see, but if you look at the C, you can see when I move you can see which stitch we are on. And if I would like to change anything of this, for example, I would like different colors in all these white areas, which would be Act Now. Then I select one area, and I select another color. And then I can rearrange how that actually looks in real life, for example. So for someone who knows punching software, this is actually really, really easy. I don't know punching software, I just know COLOREEL Studio, and this is quite easy. I will now open a different design that is a little bit easier, so it's more visible to see. If we look down here, we have the different effects that we can use. We have a striped design. We have, of course, solid colors. We have a gradient, a single gradient, so we do from, for example, light blue to dark blue or opposite. We have a multi-point gradient, so we can go between many colors. And actually, we are going to use that now. Then we also have a noise effect. That is actually an effect that creates a pattern that is a little bit randomized. So it means that if you use that effect, every embroidery will be looking a little bit differently, but it's almost never shown to the eye. But it creates random patterns between two colors. So, for example, we can create grass that really looks like grass with this effect, or we can create on a butterfly. If we have the colors on their wings, they really stand out. They become so much more alive. But in this simple design, I will use the multi-point gradient. Then I just press on it and take it down to this line. Now I've got 4 colors on the side here, which I can add more colors if I want. So down here I can add another color, and I can add another color. So now I have 6 different colors in this design. Now it's a gradient from one side to the other side in chosen colors from the program. But if I go up here and I change what type of colors I would like to start with, then I just move down to every single thing that I would like to use, or that I would like to show. And we can create, pretty fast, we can create a total different embroidery than we started out with. So this is also an advantage, because if you have a customer, you can use the same stitch file over and over again, but you can create as many color files as you would like. So for example, we would have customer that during different events, like soccer match, then they can use the colors from Sweden in their business logotype or in their design. And the next day we can print them a new jacket with the base colors again. So it's really fast to do special work for a lot of customers. I will just change the effect down here a bit. Now we had a gradient effect. I will simply switch that quick to a noise effect. And now I can also again choose, this just works between 2 colors, but I can decide how big, how fast I want the colors to change. And again, from someone who's really used to work in a punching program, this is really, really easy, and it doesn't take any time. I would say to do a simple design like this, it's only minutes away. To do the last design I showed you, maybe an hour, but it goes really, really fast in every way, I would say. We also have some tools in the software that help us create a safe design, because when it comes to Coloreel, as I mentioned before, we need those 25 centimeters to hide the color change. And when it comes to an embroidery machine, the color point that we have on the thread, it will be a little different from one embroidery machine to another embroidery machine. So that's why we use these 25 centimeters to always be safe. And then we have some tools in the software that can actually help us decide how much the change will be when we do the embroidery. So every embroidery will look the same at the eye if you look at it, but maybe there will be some small shiftings in the gradient, for example, but maybe not visible for the eye. But there is, so we can check that before we actually do the embroidery on the embroidery machine. So we will be as close as possible to have the first embroidery perfect. We change the design now, and we will show.
While you do that, just to explain a little bit how self-intuitive this software actually is, my daughter she's 12, and she had a little bit of a project in school, so I put her actually to test to try to colorize a couple of the designs, and it doesn't take a 12-year-old many minutes to get accustomed with either how to select your colors or how the timeline or stitch line works and how you can add the effects and combine them with colors. I think it took her like 10 minutes to get a hold of it. So that probably means it takes an hour for me, jokes aside, but they're always faster than we are. But it's a very self-intuitive tool, and if you're a designer and used to work with various coloring techniques, this takes you 5 minutes.
Yeah, it literally does. It goes actually really, really fast. So even, like the company says, even a salesman can do it. And yeah, probably. I do actually some designs by myself. This design, just to give you a quick show, I think it's about 20, 25 different colors in this design.
How many stitches do you have in this one?
This one is actually not that big. I think it's like, let me check here. No. I need to change that.
I think around 20,000.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, from that. Let's see.
I destroyed your demonstration now, sorry.
No. It's my computer that wasn't. Let's do like this. And go back again. Yes. But it's around 20,000 stitches.
Yeah.
21,000 stitches. So that's also a thing, because if you have, like in this design, we have like 20, 25 different colors. For us, we only use one needle. It goes really fast because we're coloring the thread meanwhile we do the embroidery. That means that you don't have to stop the design and change thread reels back on the embroidery machine. Everything is just in one flow all the time. So from a production perspective, most of the design is actually much quicker to do with the COLOREEL technique. We use probably somewhere a little more stitches than you do in a traditional design, but because we don't change any needle, we don't have any needed changes, we skip a lot. We save production time that way. So it's actually really good.
And how long does it take to make this picture?
This, to embroider it, I would say about maybe 10 or 12 minutes, something like that.
How big is it?
I think it's about 10, 12 centimeters. We have them downstairs by the embroidery machines. We can look at them downstairs. But the thing is that the most gorgeous thing is with all the effects that we have in the software, we can create a much more lively design. You won't be able to do this with traditional embroidery in the same way. And you won't be able to use all that full color space. One more thing I would say, mostly that maybe is for promotional business or something like that, but now every customer can actually get the exact right color that they would like to have in their design. For one of the problems many embroidery companies have, that they can't do a color match with the actual color that the customer would like to have, because they don't, the thread companies doesn't deliver that kind of color. Or if you want it, you maybe have to order a big batch of it.
Can you showcase that a little bit, the color segment, or is that too tricky? You know this better.
No.
The point is, in my past life, I used to work a lot with industrial designers, and for those of you here or online that are designers, I think you know that color matching is like the nightmare because it's never perfect, and it differs in between what fabric you use, it's what light you have, and so forth. So it takes normally a lot of different iterations together with a client, if you have a big project, to really nail down on that specific fabric what are the exact color to use, and that's very time consuming in traditional embroidery. In our tool here, you can actually, on the fabric, if you have the fabric from the customer, you can quite easily do what we call a segment print. So you can, with the thought of color, you can print colors that are
close to that.
Close to that. So in a segment around that, or segments around that, on the actual fabric. So you can, in sunlight or good light or bad light, you can actually, together with the customer, you can really select which specific color is actually matching their demand for that project. And that's, at least with my background, that saves a heck of a lot of headache, time and loops in many cases.
It does.
And also for the fashion business, I mean, we work a lot with the fashion business, and I know there are some designers in this room here that quite often a feature stile come and say, oh, I want yellow flowers. So the guy goes to the magazzino, he gets out all his yellow thread reels. The designer's like, no, not that yellow. I want a completely different yellow that you haven't got. So then you waste weeks calling your supplier to try and find different color thread reels. They're still not right. So in terms of sampling for the fashion business, this has really speeded it up, because you've got the color that the designer wants immediately under his nose.
Yes, that's actually it.
And you can also, which is it's not revealed on this specific embroidery, but you can work with metallic effects, which is also traditionally
Really hard.
almost impossible to do. So you can really create metallic effects on your designs as well.
And how many colors can you achieve?
Oh, like I mentioned before, we could do about 85% of all Pantone colors. So I would say that's around maybe 12 million different colors, but around that, I would say. So we can do a lot of colors. It's a totally new world. In this software, we actually also have what we call a color picker. I'm just opening it up now. In this square, you can import a picture of the color that you would like, and then we can just touch I can't show this right now because I don't have that file. But then we can point out one part of that design, and we get the hex code of that color, and then it's directly imported into this design, to the area that we would like to use it in. So that goes really quick as well. You can also, for example, you can change the background of what you're working on to have the best effect, but you can also import a picture. So I can import an image of the design that I would like to colorize and place it behind or on the side here. So it's much easier for me to try to copy what I are working on right now. Yeah. Have I forgot something?
Probably
a lot.
I haven't heard it. So.
Actually, we have actually one more tool that could be good to show.
Yeah. I think the essence of what Mats is trying to describe is really the intuitiveness, and of course that it's a very strong tool for designers.
Yeah, it is.
And to tie the whole design process into a smoother process than it in many cases is when you work with embroidery. Go ahead, Mats.
We have, I don't know how many of you has experience in printing, but when it comes to printing and coloring, we have something that called gamut space. And that's actually a type of color space that we are working within. So a red color has a special gamut, and every color has. But and if we have a tool in our software that actually we can check which gamut space we are in. So before we do the embroidery, we can check so we are within the space that we actually can print on the thread. Most of the times you won't be able to see that difference with the eye, but we can check it, and with this software I can actually, if there are colors that is outside what we actually can print, I can check it with this software, and the software rearrange so we do the closest color that we can print within that color space. So that means that we can maybe we won't be on the exact coloring, but we will be really, really close, and it goes fast. So it's easy, really easy to work with.
And it's very smart because it decreases the loops you have to do and to get it all right, which is, of course, creating waste and so forth.
Yeah. When you work on a design, so every color that you have been chosen in this design, they're actually shown down here. So if you would like to have the same color somewhere else in the design, you have already one of those colors down here. So you just drag and drop to change the color space wherever you are. If I would like to change the colors on all these flowers, for example, most of the flowers are in the yellow perspective. Then I mark an area like I showed before, and then I change the colors. And then I can rearrange how the gradient looks and so on. It goes really fast. I think actually that's what I have to say today about COLOREEL Studio. Thank you. We can switch off now.
I think that concludes the presentations from our side. So the intention is to have, correct, Victoria, a little bit of a Q&A, depending on what...
Absolutely. If anybody would like, it's a lot to take in. I appreciate that. Yes. There's a lot of information here. But if there are questions, and then also we will go downstairs in small groups and demonstrate the unit, actually, because I think if you see it running, it's really, really extraordinary when you see it in action. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, sure. I think I have a question. The guests have a question, probably online too. I have a question, but very interesting. I think is good to see to the machine.
Yes.
And I want. You have finished. You have.
We are finished. We are. I just stand up because it's easier.
No, I really, Henrik, Matt is very. Thank you for open this new possibility. For the designer, because the technology is really the instrument in the hand of the designer. It is important to know which technology give the more nice possibility and good solution, but in sometimes designer have to choose the technology what everyone more responsible approach for arrive to have the product with high sustainable quantity. I don't know, it's not correct, but for example, I appreciate much the COLOREEL technologies because my know-how start from embroidery. I am punching in the start, now you know. And the technical aspect, the software is very, I am very surprised, but this is more near for me. But I am very impressed, in case it's possible, open the slide number 18 from Henrik. This is one micro laboratory.
Yes.
It's crazy how many technology is inside this small part of the machine, and how all technology work unite. Because I imagine, okay, put color, but dry, but make a lubrication is one synchronism incredible for arrive to have the result what we watch down. Is very, very incredible for me. Thank you for open this small diamond, no? This machine, because it's very important for me. And the role of the house is just this: connect the technology with the designer, disseminate the know-how, the expertise. In the house, we have the machine. We work. We make a test. We show the possibility, and for example, in the more progress of our activity in the January, we start to open the courses for entry more inside the technologies and give one more high know-how to the designer or the technical figure in the fashion. Thank you very much, and Victoria, you want...
I just think, does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask, either Henrik or Mats, or indeed Loreto?
I would actually like to mention one more thing, because when we're talking about, when we actually have colored the thread, it's like any other normal embroidery thread. So it's fully washable up to 95 degrees. it has the same features as any other embroidery thread. And that's also quite important to know, because as soon as the embroidery is done, you can wash it.
It's a good comment, Mats. We didn't talk too much about that, but the fastness properties is identical to traditional embroidery, and then of course better than many of the printing methods, or far better. And I think your remark also, Loreto, is very interesting. I mean, it's really microfab factory. That's what it is.
Okay.
That colors and dyes.
I think what is also more impressive is then the fastness, how all this is happening.
Yeah.
I think it's incredible.
But do you think that this technology, this is an amazing technology, super innovative, but do you think it would be ever possible to move this technology also for production of clothing? Because you have dyes and many threads and many deadstocks also for production of clothing. We use threads to this is what you will do.
What we're doing research on is, of course, how it could be applied on other areas like knitting and so forth, or with other threads. I mean, today we use 100% recycled polyester thread, which is not optimal, but it's better than a virgin thread. So we're basically having our focus on how the technology can be applied on some type of constant thread production, rather knitting or weaving and so forth. That's where we have our focus in terms of applying it to more areas.
I've asked you this question many times.
Yes.
I'm sorry to bring it up again.
No.
You are looking into having a technology that you can do this with a natural thread?
Yes.
Okay, great.
We are.
Timing-wise, I wish I could tell you. I mean, it is, as you can imagine, it's a lot of factors that taken us several years and a lot of dedication and money in order to control in terms of temperature, the fastness properties, and so forth. Changing the actual material that you use for that or use in that process requires that we redo several of those steps. And our work is ongoing, but if I were able to tell you, I would be happy.
She's waiting.
Marina, we have started to provocate.
We talked about this one before.
Is back, so. Birgit.
Yes.
And this is another very interesting word, the wool word.
Yes.
And I think now this technology is really new. Is the start of one evolution. It's only the start. I imagine in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, this entry in many different applications. Not embroidery. It starts with embroidery, but this go in the knitwear. I imagine. I dream. Please, please work about.
We do.
We are.
I think there's two questions I also wanted to ask. Was on what other machines could be then the technologies applied, for example, knitwear or woven,
Yep.
and secondly with the natural stretch. This could be probably with wool, but I know that I imagine that there are many effects and items to take in consideration.
Yeah, there is, but I mean, I'm happy that you are here today because I would definitely like to see if we can discuss some type of early discussions and trials on that. We always look for strong partners from different aspects of the industry in order to push the boundaries going forward. So, really good. Really good.
So this took you approximately 10 years to develop.
I mean, from the first insights of Joachim, it took 10 years. I mean, he started trials, 10 years ago. And you can imagine that he's been not only working technology-wise, but also investor-wise, trying to bring capital to have it realized and in the end have a product ready. And it took almost 8 years to get to the point that we had a sellable product. I would say 2 years ago, more or less. That's when the technology was mature enough. And then unfortunately, we had something called COVID that hit us at the same time. So, but it's a very interesting future.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any more questions from the audience here, or do we have any online? Or no, everyone is on lunch. I can imagine.
Everybody's gone
now. Before lunch, we want to see the machine.
Yes, of course.
And after, yes, thank you everybody for the presence. And we invite everyone a little bit drink down and provide for the presence of the Henrik for see where is the application of the machine, how machine work.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.